they have orders that this tenant owes $30,000 to the landlord.
Yeah.
And they are not able to recover that. And court says, okay, if they don't have a money to pay, what should we do? They have orders only. There is no further movement how to collect that money, how to collect that areas, the rent. So did you work on that? If you don't pay your mortgage, bank give you a compensation, okay, don't pay for 5 months and you can run away free.
It's not about the people that can't pay, it's about the people who won't pay.
If any tenant, they don't pay their electricity or a water bill, then liable is the landlord. And that what has happened, that we have seen landlords got a big bills for the water and the electricity. Kara, what is your take on rent control, renovation bylaws and landlord licensing programs? What are the investors' right and how they can fight, and in the sideline they have to give the shelters, housing to the tenants also? Police has those resources to track them, that this driving license person is here and here. So why police can't be a tool into tracking the professional tenant after they took landlord's money? Across Canada, we have seen the pain of the tenants, pain of the landlords, and for that we have the Landlord-Tenant Board. Recently, Ontario government has introduced a Bill 60, which is now a law. What are the provisions in Bill 60? And then there are many organizations which works for the fairness of landlords and tenants. We have such an organization which is Ontario's Landlords Watch. We have Kyla with us, who is a founder of Ontario's Landlord Watch and a brand ambassador of Front Lobby. So these kind of organizations, they were working for the fairness for landlords and tenants, and they were working for last 15 years very hard, and they fought a big battle. Finally, Ontario government has acted against the professional tenants, against the professional landlords. So what are the provisions in the Bill 60 we will discuss, but starting welcoming the Kyla, who is a founder of Ontario's Landlord Watch. Kyla, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
If you give your introduction, who Kyla is and about your organization, Ontario Landlords Watch, when they were established and what role they played in last 15 years.
Well, first, I'm a small landlord in Ontario. I've been a landlord for the last 24 years. I started Ontario Landlords Watch in 2010 when the City of Cambridge made landlords responsible for their tenants' delinquent utility bills. That resulted in us getting a petition, going to different landlords associations, sending it out. It was coming back to us with messages thanking me for challenging our municipalities from enacting this policy that does obviously impact landlords, but it also impacts the good tenants that are out there as well. But it came back with notes asking me to help them fight the Residential and Tenancy Act in the Landlord and Tenant Board. So it was like, whoa, like we got a lot to unpack. So I created a Facebook group on Facebook to keep everybody organized. So when there was news and information and a call to action and obviously education, I knew exactly where to post. And that's where we kind of gave ourselves a little home. And I do come from the family of tenants. My husband came from the family of landlords. So when I do make recommendations to our government, it's with that in mind. So it's nice to see that they're finally waking up.
So you started this organization in 2010?
2010.
15 years?
Yeah.
Long battle?
It's not easy.
So
there's been times I wanted to give up, I tell you.
So you had seen a lot of pains, sufferings of the landlords and the tenants?
Oh yes, my phone rings constantly, and it's about them looking for help, and they're looking for guidance, and they don't know where to turn. And we do understand that there's a lot of good tenants out there that I answer the phone for as well. So there is a lot of pain and suffering that's happening, and it's just a lot of just bad housing policies that have caused it.
Yeah. If I ask you, we have so many provinces, Alberta, BC, PAI, and then we have the Ontario. Which province has a better laws for landlords and tenants out of all this, which is on a right path?
Shout out to Alberta, people. This is where Ontario landlords are leaving too, is Alberta. Alberta is definitely the more fair and balanced province all of Canada, just because of their dispute resolution, but also the fact that they don't have rent control and their rents are still considered very reasonable, but they also have a no, they don't. They have an end term to their yearly lease. Not like Ontario, it automatically goes into a month-to-month tenancy after you're done a yearly lease.
Okay, what are the biggest challenges landlords face as of today?
It's non-payment of rent.
Okay.
It's definitely non-payment of rent. We have a lot of, troubling times. People are losing their jobs, but there are also people that, it's not about the people that can't pay, it's about the people who won't pay. And that's the message that we're trying to give to our government, is that there is the people who will want to abuse the system. And I think everyone needs to be concerned, including our taxpayers, because when they are abusing the landlord and tenant board, the taxpayers are paying for that system. They're paying for that tribunal. So we want to be able to rope in about how we can streamline this approach to make it more fair and balanced for all parties, and make sure that the good tenants also have the ability to have their hearing heard in a timely manner as well.
Out of 100, how many cases you heard that there are professional landlords who are giving pain to tenants? Because the stories which we covered never came across any landlord who is being suffered by the any tenant who is being suffered by the landlord.
No, and you're right. Like, this is the narrative that I think is like a lot of the professional tenants or the NDP like to make it look like these bad, greedy landlords out there. But the landlords, they're doing their best to run a business with the broken system that they have. And if you look at the stats from the Landlord and Tenant Board from 2023 to 2024, they just had over just 6,000 tenant applications. And compared to the landlord applications, they are over 70,000 applications at the Landlord and Tenant Board filed by landlords, and majority of them, just over 43,000, are going to be for non-payment of rent. So when you look at what kind of resources the tenants have, they have everything, not including the Landlord and Tenant Board. They also have property standards. So they have the property standards, they're also having their elected officials, and we do understand that if there's any type of maintenance issues, but the number one applications filed by tenants is not maintenance, it's tenants' rights, because they're trying to use that section in order to get money back on their rent.
If you don't pay your mortgage, bank give you a compensation, okay, don't pay for 5 months and you can run away free?
No, and you know what?
So that is the point I'm asking, like our lawmakers, our policy makers, they don't consider this point?
I don't know if they do or not. And then at the same time, let's say there was a flood in your basement. Can you go to your mortgage and say, hey, I had a flood, I can't make my payment? No, but when you have a flood or a fire or something like that within the rentals, the tenants are like, well, you were able to inconvenience me. I want money back for my rent. And it's like, whoa.
Okay, if any tenant, they don't pay their electricity or a water bill, then liable is the landlord. And that what has happened, that we have seen landlords got a big bills for the water and the electricity.
Yeah.
Why tenants should not be responsible for paying their own bills? Which municipality, and we have heard that Niagara has that law that if tenant don't pay, that is tenant's liability, not the landlord's. So you told me that in Cambridge you were working on this. What is the situation across Ontario, and only the municipality is responsible to fixing this loophole, or it comes under LTV also?
Well, ideally we want the province to fix it, because it's in the Municipal Act that allows municipalities to make landlords responsible for the tenants' delinquent utility bills. I don't want to give any municipality any crazy ideas right now, because we are trying to change this in Cambridge. We did have a city councillor, Helen Swery, who brought in motion, it was seconded by Mike Devine, another city councillor, to get landlords off the hook from being responsible for tenants' delinquent utility bills. Not so much as a business. Yes, it's not fair, they're not the user to the utility, but what we were trying to explain to the other city councillors is that we need to do it because landlords now have the power to evict tenants for not paying their water bill. So they could be paying their rent on time, but if they don't pay their water bill, we're now going to be able to evict them. Number two, we're backlogging the Landlord and Tenant Board system with applications that deal with the tenants' utilities. We're sitting here going, well, why are we using a provincial body to play the collection agency for municipalities?
Yeah.
So now they've created a task force within the city of Cambridge to identify if landlords should be responsible, if they shouldn't be responsible, and if they're not responsible, how do we work this where it's not falling solely on the backs of the taxpayers? So we really have to identify. I'm obviously a code of conduct. I can't tell you what's happening there, but know that we're on our last meeting or so with that task force to bring recommendations to the city of Cambridge. But I think they're starting to understand that there's little municipal policies that they can do to really go a long way when it comes down to preventing homelessness within their city.
Bill 60 has been passed in Ontario, and we had seen all that fight between Premier Ford and Merit Stiles in the Queen's Park, and all the professionals, because Premier Ford said that go and find a job, because they were the professional protesters as per the Premier Ford. How you see the Bill 60, and what are the few points which you want to mention so that our viewers can know that Bill 60 is beneficial for the landlords and the tenants?
Yes, like it's political theater. You know, that's what we're seeing. She knows that this bill is to crack down on the bad actor tenants that are out there. The tenants still have the ability to have a hearing. They still have time right up until the sheriff comes to pay their rent to avoid eviction. They also have rent relief programs. So for anyone to think that Bill 60 is going to cause people to be evicted faster is mistaken, and it's just them trying to fabricate everything. We look at the fact that why would we have to wait 14 days before we file at the Landlord and Tenant Board? We just need to make sure that as that change happens, that they have an easier way for landlords to withdraw their application as tenants make their payment after that 7th day. But the tenants do need to know that there is some consequence for them not paying their rent on the 1st. This is not a 7th day or a 14th day. I like the fact that they're looking at the review process, because tenants are abusing that, getting a stay, then they go a review with no evidence stating that the adjudicator made an error within their hearing, and then they would ask for an extension on that review process. We also have tenants that are out there taking advantage of landlords when it comes down to maintenance requests. So as the landlords never had any recognition or anything from the tenant stating that there was a maintenance concern, but the tenants bring it up at the time of hearing when the landlords are filing for non-payment, and they're making it look like they stopped paying rent because of the maintenance, and nowhere in the RTA says that you have the right to withhold rent. How do you expect the landlord to go ahead and maintain the property if you're not even paying him the money to even maintain it? So we have to see that as a huge win for our landlords and closing that loophole out there. We also have a part of the section where it's going to be about making these orders public. I think landlords and tenants need to understand that if you don't want to work things out, that this is going to become public for people to identify that there was an issue with either side of it. Even for compensation, we've seen many landlords be on the line to be held financially responsible when a deal can't close because the tenants refuse to move. And that was a lot of loopholes with the compensation, where if you didn't pay the compensation between time of serving it to the 60-day mark on that notice, you could have your hearing withdrawn or dismissed at the Landlord and Tenant Board, causing a huge issue with it. So there's lots more that we want to see and it's just like a lot of people are like, hey, it's not going to do much. I'm like, it's a cake. We look at it as a
it's
cake.
A first step.
We got a big crumb. We got a big crumb, and I'm hoping to continue to work with our government to identify that there is loopholes, and the savings that you're making there, we can put them elsewhere.
But how you see the Ontario NDP role when they were protesting inside the parliament?
That was despicable. That was unacceptable. These people have to understand they were fed a lot of narratives that this is going to result into them being evicted quicker. They still have everything. They have they have free legal aid, they have the rent banks, they have their day in court, they have their stays still. There's really nothing besides the fact that we're cracking down on those bad actors. And out of all my years of advocating, I've never seen anything like that. And they're very hostile individuals. And this is where some of our elected officials are proudly standing beside these representatives, but totally ignoring the very housing providers of Ontario that is the backbone of this industry.
Carla, did you saw our reports when we covered the pains of our seniors, landlord, and other landlords? Did you ever watch our reports which we covered? Because many of the times here in the Peel region, we got many calls that I'm a victim, I have a tenant, professional tenant, they are not paying rent. And then the people have the orders from the LTB, orders in the hand. but there is no enforcement. Means I know so many people, they have orders that this tenant owes $30,000 to the landlord. And they are not able to recover that. And court says, okay, if they don't have a money to pay, what should we do? They have orders only. So after all that big fight, the buck stop at the orders. There is no further movement how to collect that money, how to collect that arrears, the rent. So did you work on that?
You know what? So even with like obviously having these orders public, we also have to identify, we have different products and tools and services that are coming to us. And ideally it's about getting our landlords fully aware that they have the legal right to report an unpaid debt for rent or utilities to the credit bureaus right away. You don't even need an order in your hand. You can report that on the 2nd of every month. It gets reported to frontlobby.com. They share it with Landlord Credit Bureau and Equifax on a monthly basis. The only time you need an order is to report a damages, because that can kind of fluctuate, but when it comes down to, you also can report good payment history. But this is again where we like Bill 60, because they see the fact that there is orders in hand, but unless you have the sheriff, which is there's now a backlog on the sheriffs, we need to make sure that our industry is fully stacked with the exact people that we need from start to finish, and that's including from the landlord and tenant board right down to the sheriff. So I like to see that they are going to be hiring some new ones in order to enact those orders.
If someone has to see the registry of the bad tenants or registry of the bad landlords, how can they watch that?
Well, you got to do your credit check. Every landlord, never, ever, ever, ever. I tell you from years of experience, never take a credit check from a tenant. You always have to conduct your own. Put the application in place, give it to the tenant, make sure you have a clause to say that they have given you permission to pull their credit. So now when you pull their credit, you're going to see a trade line. Don't look so much on the score, you got to look into the trade line. So if you did have a tenant that decided to leave $30,000, $50,000, and I've heard a lot more, on their landlord, it's going to be a trade line right into that credit score. So you're going to see that this debt is going to follow.
So you mean to say that when you want to rent your house property to a tenant, first go to the front lobby or Equifax. Check their credit. If they have a bad credit, don't look to the score. Look at the tagline which is there. So if that is a minus, if that has all the bad credit, then don't give your property to that tenant.
Don't.
Okay. So any other screening a landlord has to do before giving their property to the tenants?
Oh, there's so much. You know, we're talking about social media, especially with Bill 60, and even on my feed on Facebook, you're going to see a lot of tenants come on there, and their names and their faces are shown. Like, we have to know that there's people accountable, and it's not just so much as the fact that we need to make sure that the tenants pay on time. We didn't know that we're picking a tenant that we're easy to communicate with. This is a business. If you go into a store right now and someone was very like yelling in your face and accusing you of everything and anything, could you tell them to leave your facility in a business? Same thing with landlords. We're in business, but we're being put through the ringer in order to have to deal with abuse coming from tenants. And at least tenants can move if they have abusive landlord or a neglectful landlord. The landlords are stuck with them. It's like a divorce that you can't get out of.
Kara, what is your take on rent control, renovation bylaws, and landlord licensing programs?
Oh, honey, how long are we having today? Rent control, what we're seeing now, the landlord and tenant board, the backlog, landlords doing N12 notices for personal use, rent evictions, demolitions. Like, we're seeing this as a symptom of rent control, right? We're seeing a symptom of rent control why the landlords are leaving this province. And another thing is that we're working with municipalities who are introducing municipal bylaws from landlord licensing, from vacancy tax, from a SAFE program that they have in Toronto. They're always, if the province started to wake up, now the municipalities are coming in trying to overstep the provincial jurisdiction and implement their own. Landlord licensing, it's been proven that it doesn't work. They introduced it for the bad actor landlords, but the bad actor landlords are not getting that license. What you're doing is taking money away away from the good landlords from putting money and maintaining their properties and causing their rents to rise. Any municipality that wants to go into landlord licensing, hey landlords, heads up, you can go ahead and you can go to the Landlord and Tenant Board and apply for an above the guideline rent increase because of that increase that a municipality put on you. So when you have an elected official telling you the greedy little landlords and rents are rising because of the landlords, it's not. It's because of bad housing policies and because of multiple levels of government not speaking with each other.
So what kind of changes needed at all levels of the government, from
They
municipal
need to
to
talk. Well, one, we need a municipal government. I really hope that Mr. Ford wakes up and tells our municipalities to stay in their own lane. Just like water billing needs to be removed. We cannot have landlord licensing when we do have a process that's already in place for our tenants to go to the Landlord and Tenant Board or to call property standards and have them investigate. They're just doing it as an investigation all across the map, even though there was no calls or concerns for it. Landlords understand that it's a business. And if you don't maintain your property, you're not going to be attracting the tenants to your property and your place is going to be sitting empty. But the times have changed. You know, there's a decline on international students, and we're seeing the prices of rents drop because of that. And that's what we've always been saying, you know, just based on what is happening, it's supply and demand that what we're looking at. But we do need to get the province to wake up, put our municipalities in their lane. We need more bills like Bill 60 with potentially a housing task force to oversee the Landlord and Tenant Board to make sure that Bill 60 comes into the Landlord and Tenant Board with ease and not confusion, because it's supposed to streamline it and to make it more simple. And we
need more bills like Bill 60, because Bill 60 does not cover everything. It is a first step in the right direction, but we need more enforcement into this.
It's one crumb. It's the one big crumb. We can't have the cake yet, because you can see, look at what happened. This is a little tiny change. Can you imagine what an overhaul would look like and what the tenant unions would do and how the NDP would captivate on this and play political theater? So you got to kind of take it. And we always said to people anyways, like when you're working with elected officials, like who's going to come out and speak for these landlords, these small mom and pop landlords, without the opposition making it look like you're doing the developers and your business buddies. You know what I mean? Like, no, we are doing the job so that taxpayers don't have to. Because deep down, landlords, we're doing it so that our taxpayers are not building, maintaining, managing, and subsidizing government housing. Because that is in itself is a system that needs to be reviewed, because that's a system that's unsustainable as well.
And we have seen that investors, they are running away from Ontario. They are not investing, and they are the housing providers. They give housing to the tenants. So what they can do to fight for their rights, investors? Because if we don't have investors, if they run away from this province, then it will be very a tough situation for us. What are the investors' right and how they can fight? And in the sideline, they have to give the shelters, housing to the tenants also.
Well, one, join Ontario Landlords Watch. Join our Facebook group. Follow us on our public page. I have a YouTube channel, Ontario Landlords Watch, to follow all the interactions that we're having on our advocacy. We want them to follow all of their elected officials, municipal, provincial, federal, anyone who's into the housing. Speaking of housing, follow them and call them out for the narrative that they're pushing, and have your voice heard. You have to write your letter to your elected officials. You have to show up as delegations when there's a topic at your municipalities, but you need to be able to come out together and network with other landlords in order to because we may be like one landlord versus 20 tenants, but if you look at who we keep supplying in our, from our contractors to our legal reps, like we do provide quite a bit of jobs in our industry just by having us in there. But a lot of people are trying to take this mission that landlords are better out of the picture, and they think everyone can afford a home, but deep down not everyone's going to be able to be a homeowner. They need to have good credit, they need to have a job, they need to have a down deposit. We're filling that gap, and that's what people need to understand, that it's not these big greedy corporations. We are small mom and pop who don't have a pension.
So the landlords, those who were the victims by professional tenants, and many of them have the orders, the LTV orders in their hand, and they have not successful to recover their rents. So what they should do now at this stage?
Well, they have to make sure it follows that tenant. You know, you're going to have tenants that may want to.
Many times they don't know where the tenant went and how can they follow them.
Well, this is where it's a step-by-step process. So when you're first getting into a tenancy with the tenant, I always get the landlords to fill out a consent by email form on the Landlord and Tenant Board website. You can include it on the lease as well to say that we can communicate. But if you get them to sign that paperwork that says consent by email, it gives you good evidence if the tenants do vacate to give to the Landlord and Tenant Board to say, I would like permission to serve my tenants alternative so that I can go ahead and serve them by email. So that's the way you're tracking them down. Two, if you already have the order and the tenant is already like, you got to chase them down and try to garnish their wages, now you might have to get yourself into a skip tracer, which is going to cost some money as well. But if you're now taking your debt that's owing and you're putting it to the credit bureaus, that debt's going to follow the tenant. And I can tell from experience, when I reported a tenant from in 2019, right before the 6-year mark, he contacted us and said the only thing that's on his credit is this, and it's impacting him. And he said that he couldn't even do his consumer proposal because of that one debt that I put on them. So maybe there's times where I may get the money, but there's other times I know that I'm just impacting their ability to seek accommodations and to do this to another landlord. So we also have that two front where you're never going to see the money, but at the same time make sure that they know that there's consequence to it, and you can warn your other colleagues in this industry that this is a tenant who you may want to consider high risk because of what they've already done to you.
And
but this is the joys of business.
Yes, but why police can't help in tracking the tenant? Because if the landlord has an identification driving license of the tenant, and we don't know which province they went to, but police has those resources to track them that this driving license person is here and here. So why police can't be a tool into tracking the professional tenant after they took landlord's money?
I like how you said that because I've been talking about like Service Ontario. Like we work with Service Ontario, and knowing that you have documentation that you want to serve the tenant, and you're supposed to update your new address within 30 days. Why can't we serve the tenants at Service Ontario and they forward it to the tenant and considered it to be served? And that's for Landlord and Tenant Board. That could be for small claims court. It could be for anything. We have to start doing this accountability. We're letting too many people away when what is considered rent theft, and that's what it is. A lot of people think, and when there's services out there that help tenants pay first and last month's rent and rent relief, and we're still seeing such an abundance of applications at the Landlord and Tenant Board that's bogging down the Landlord and Tenant Board that taxpayers are paying for, we got to draw the line in the sand somewhere.
Okay. Kyla, thank you very much for all these information about your company, Ontario Landlords Watch, and the front lobby. You're a brand ambassador of it, and keep doing the good work. In the end, what you want to say, and my question was, did you saw our reports when we covered the landlords who were suffering, who were in pain? We fought very hard.
You did.
And then Attorney General of Ontario, Doug Downey, he said, we are working on a file, and finally we are here with the Bill 60, but that is not enough. We want more security for our landlords, more security, because if I don't pay my mortgage, banks won't leave me. If I don't pay my bills, no utility company will leave me. Our credit will go ahead. But where is the safety for the landlords and the investors? The organizations like yours, the other organizations, those who are working for the safety, for the fairness of landlords and tenants, we really salute you. And what is your final message to Ontarians?
Landlords, you got to start fighting now. You know, this is something where this is your business that you're fighting for, and you're not only fighting for your business, you're fighting for the good tenants out there, and you're fighting as a taxpayer for this industry. And we don't want to fight, you know, but we've been fighting hard for 15 years. It's nice to see it, Bill 60, and I need you to get that message out to Rob Flack, the Minister of Housing. We have to get it to his associate, Doug Downey, the Attorney General, of course, Mr. Ford himself, and be able to say we need more, and we need to be a part of this at the table, because we haven't been at the table for many years, and it's nice to finally have the opportunity to have that seat.
Did government listen to you with your suggestions and your recommendations?
The recommendation I have sent, I have I'm seeing a little pieces of that through Bill 60, which I'm very proud of and I'm glad that he's now investigating some of these nonprofits that or could be investigating.
Yes.
We don't know if he is or not, but at the same time, it's looking into how that system in itself works, because it's not just landlords.
So you'll be sending more recommendations to the Attorney General?
Of course, I need every landlord to reach out to me. I want to hear what they have to say. say. I want to hear what their solutions are, because I want to be the voice of the small landlords and the property managers out there and our realtors. So it's not just, and our good tenants.
And how can they reach you?
Obviously, anywhere on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, YouTube, and just send me a private message, and I'll make sure that I get back to them as soon as I can.
Okay. Keep doing the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.